Near mint condition, the home of collected editions. Oh my gosh, look at that panel of Batman. You have the absolute, you have the deluxe. DC Comics firing on all cylinders. Round them up, all you minties. This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, home of collected editions. Today, I'm going to go over my list of the top 20 most wanted DC Omnis. Woo, we're going to have ourselves a hoedown. I can't believe I stuck with that voice the whole time. Stay tuned. And here we go! How is everybody doing? This is the Uncanny Omar. You are watching Near Mint Condition. And today I'm going to go over my personal top 20 most wanted DC Omnis. What you're not going to see on this list is Batman or Superman. That list, or those two lists, will be later on in the upcoming weeks, just like I'm doing with Marvel and Spider-Man and X-Men. Then I'll also do a gallery and absolute editions most wanted. And then, because you all have been asking for years, my most wanted manga in deluxe edition. I actually had the list, I pulled it up, and I have to redo some things because, well, some of those have already been made since I made that list back in 2018, 2019. All right, this is a countdown. So we are starting at number 20 and moving all the way down to number 1. If you've been watching me for a while, you can probably guess what some of the things in here are going to be. I did change up a little bit of the mapping and also just putting a volume 1 instead of like volumes 1 through 3. That's a lazy man's way out. I wanted to do it like, oh, if this was a volume 1, where would they stop and how many more volumes would there be? So smash that like button and let's have some fun without that cowboy hat. Aquaman by Jurgens, Parker, and Bunn Omnibus. This is what's kicking off this list with number 20, and this is the era of the New 52. It takes place after Geoff Johns' run. I'm also included the others in here, and all the other stories that lead up into the DC Rebirth era. Of course, I want that collected too. I think last year it was Aquaman by Larson and Lanning. I think, yeah, so this time around I wanted to change it up a little bit. Seems like the New 52 is getting a lot of love with some, like, Francis Manapul stuff in here. The Tony Danielle stuff in here from Detective Comics. So I think somebody in the collected editions department really likes this era. And I think it makes for a nice wrapping up of the Aquaman era in omnibus format. All right, number 19, of course, I'm talking about Booster Gold. That's right, baby. Michael John Booster Carter, and created by Dan Jurgens. I want the classic stuff. I want the stuff that you see him coming from the 25th century and becoming a superhero called Gold Star, but then just kind of manages to screw things up and then ends up here in our timeline, well, our timeline of the 1980s, and then eventually joining the Justice League. But yeah, I want everything in here from the original series, and of course, eventually I would love to see the Geoff Johns era collected, but this is the Booster Gold, the classic era omnibus is what I want to see first. Man, this one really moved up on the list for me, but Frankenstein, Agent of S.H.A.D.E. Omnibus. We've had a collection of 2 trade paperbacks, which is wonderful. This is the era, again, of the New 52, so I think it's likely to happen. It was a book that no one talked about, but it definitely made it into my top 5 books from the New 52 era. It's Jeff Lemire. Of course, I want to kick it off with the Frankenstein miniseries from the Seven Soldiers with Doug Mahnke on wonderful artwork. But this will follow that character into the New 52, so you do have some Doug Mahnke in here, Alberto Ponticelli, and of course Jeff Lemire writing the stories in here when Frankenstein decides to, oh gosh, what is it called? Superhuman Advanced Defense. Is it executive, I think? Anyway, that's what S.H.A.D.E. stands for. So he is working for a company as an agent, and it's just a lot of fun. Number 17, woo, the Ray. I think this is the first time I've actually mentioned my love of the Ray. Did I put it in my hidden gems? I have this old trade paperback of the Ray. A huge fan of this character. I wanted to start off with the 6-issue miniseries by Jack C. Harris and, of course, Joe Quesada. who was the ink? I think Art Nichols might have been the inker on that. But this is the new Ray. This is the son of the original Ray, Raymond Terrell, and he ends up having light powers just like his father. And I want to continue it with the Christopher Priest series, and then of course Howard Porter doing those issues. That's in the, oh my gosh, 1994, I think. And that series, I want all of it collected, and it can be done in one omnibus. This was a great character. I like stories like this, and I definitely gravitated to stories like this when I was a teenager. Just somebody not knowing how to use their powers and not knowing what their legacy is supposed to be. But, oh man, it's got great artwork. Some, like, old school Joe Quesada artwork. Omega Man Omnibus coming in at number 16, collecting, of course, the Green Lantern issues where they make their first appearance. So this is the characters that were originally created by Marv Wolfman and Joe Staton, but then, of course, I want the ongoing Keith Giffen series. This is where you're going to see the main man's first appearance, Lobo, making his first appearance in here. And then you're going to have, I think in this run, most of it, you know, drawn by, of course, Keith Giffen and other creators, but this is the galactic side of things for the DC Universe. We have a lot of Green Lantern, no Green Lantern yet on the list. Maybe he'll make it. It's made it before in the past. But yeah, this time around, because of that logo, Uncanny Omar Tuck Pretty One Day, Lobo Compendium, I want more of this era explored. And I don't think hardly any of it has been collected before, unless I'm missing like a DC showcase, if you know. Did they do a DC showcase of Omega Man? I don't think they did. All right, let's get to the events. DC is kicking ass with the events. They are doing a Legends Omnibus. That's freaking awesome. So give me that Armageddon 2001, baby. That's right. Does anybody else want this? Probably not, but leave your list down below. I really like this story. Is it the greatest crossover? Absolutely not, but it's not been collected even in trade paperback. Couple of issues, annuals here and there from it in different collections in trade, but not at all. Like, why don't we have the story of Monarch and Wave Rider collected? So this is all about Monarch. I love that outfit, by the way, who is this oppressive tyrant that is ruling over a dystopian Earth. And I think it was set, they've changed it, of course, 2001. Anyway, it's set in the future, and then we have people that are standing up against him. Matthew Ryder, of course, making a time machine to come back in the past, present day, in the 80s, or again, no, not 1990, 91, and trying to change things, like, hey, warning the heroes that there is this evil tyrant that is coming. And then, of course, the big revelation as to who Monarch is. And I want the original ending before it was spoiled in there, too. Big fan of this series. I remember picking these up as a kid, so I want all of it. All the annuals, all the stories, and then, of course, the follow-up series, too, of 2001. Collected in here, the Alien Agenda and then Inferno. So yes, that is what's coming in at number 15. Number 14, Hawkman and Hawkgirl Omnibus. You are gonna get the Jeff Johns. We all love Jeff Johns, but I feel like this is an era, some of it collected in trade paperback, by the way, that often doesn't get mentioned. And we have names in here like Jimmy Palmiotti, Ed Brubaker, Howard Chaykin, and Walter Simonson. So this is after Jeff Johns left the book. This is issues 26 through 49. And then after Infinite Crisis, when it became Hawkgirl. So it is the story of Carter Hall, and of course his new origin with Kendra Saunders, her new origin because of Jeff Johns and kind of rebooting the whole Hawk world thing. So I want the rest of it collected because we will have the first 25. It just got reprinted. I don't know when you're watching this video. I'm sure I've done an overview of it by now. Surely I have. But this is the stuff that follows it. And then, of course, ends with issue 66. Number 13. Little bit of a spoiler, but Spectre, Hal Jordan Omnibus. And I do want it to include the Emerald Knight. I thought about including Final Night in there, like the entirety of Final Night, but I'm like, that would probably be its own event omnibus, so I'm just going to put the Parallax Emerald Knight. So this is after the events of Emerald Twilight, when Hal Jordan went little crazy and started doing things that not a lot of people agreed with. But also introduced us to, of course, Kyle Rayner. Anyway, he went on to do the Final Night thing, and then there were sacrifices made. So what happens to Hal Jordan? Well, in the little miniseries Day of Judgment, Hal Jordan becomes the newest incarnation of the Spectre. So that's where the series is coming from. And it's written so well, and it's just a really weird era of especially somebody like Hal Jordan in the DC universe that I don't think they've swept it under the rug. Hell, Green Lantern Rebirth kicks off with him as the Spectre, but absolutely needs to be collected because that isn't even collected in trade paperback. One of my all-time favorites because of Keith Giffen, of course, Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes Omnibus. So I wanted to collect, of course, his first appearance and then his ongoing series. And his ongoing series, of course, by Keith Giffen, who I want to say that was his last creation. Was this character. In here, you're going to have artwork by Cully Hammer. Eventually, Lila Sturgis ends up writing the book with Mike Norton and Heather Rogers, Patrick Lowe, some of the other people working on the book. But this is a brand new Blue Beetle, how he ended up with the Blue Scarab. That's why I want to include that issue of Infinite Crisis in there. And there's been a movie about this character. That was a lot of fun. I actually dug that movie. And it kind of reminded me of why I enjoyed the comic book so much. And he's finally getting some love, too, again, because we had that Josh Trujillo series. So I'm hoping that they'll do something with this. We just had, I think it's about to wrap up the Blue Beetle books, like the big, thick trade paperbacks, in case you want to try it out, in case you want to read it. Number 11. Oh, yeah, baby. I can't believe we don't have this yet. Justice League of America Omnibus Volume 1. I'm not talking about the classic Justice League of America. I'm talking about, well, now I guess it's considered a classic, the stuff that happens right after Infinite Crisis. So this is pretty much wrapping up after JLA wraps up. I believe it was Bob Harris that wrote the last few issues of JLA. The whole Crisis of Conscience and all that, that's in the Infinite Crisis Omnibus. But this is Justice League of America, a new era with Brad Meltzer, Ed Brubaker, and how I have this, I think it'll be enough for 2 because there's 60 issues of it. Then you have the Rise of Arsenal and all the James Robinson stuff you can add in there. But this is pretty much the Brad Meltzer and the Dwayne McDuffie, who wrote probably it is my favorite Justice League story with the Injustice League. And in here, you're going to have artwork not just by Ed Bennis, but Joe Benitez and Ian Churchill, just to name a few of the creators. We have the Return of the Tangent universe that kind of came out of nowhere. And then they really did try to bring back the Milestone universe during this era, too. And I can't believe, no one has put Ed Bennis back on a flagship title again. The guy's a great artist and knows his target audience, that's for sure, with all that cake. But also, he's fast. That's what surprises me, that he's not on a big top tier book. And I wonder why. So, if and when any of these books are up for pre-order, check out our first sponsor.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code NEARMINTCONDITION at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
Starman Omnibus. I actually have this mapped exactly like they mapped the compendium, because I really like the mapping of the compendium. As long as they keep those S.H.A.D.E journal entries in there in the way that the original Omnibus, the skinny, small hardcovers, that's perfection. And I want the introductions and the afterwords by James Robinson in there. So this is one of my favorite series. It is the James Robinson and Tony Harris series that introduces us to Jack Knight taking over his father's role as a superhero known as Starman. Ted is an old man now. He's retired, and his first son, Jack's brother, ended up getting killed on his first night out. Oh my gosh. So now Jack is wielding the Cosmic Rod, and he is fighting up against the Mist and the S.H.A.D E, Captain Marvel showing up through here. And yes, I even want the Hellboy stuff in there. But it's one of my favorite series. It's made it on the list many times before, but now I'm separating it by different volume numbers. The compendium is huge, and I know people love that format, but I love the omnibus format, and this is one, especially with Tony Harris's artwork, that deserves to be in an oversized format. JLA, I just talked about Justice League of America, but JLA by Mark Waid Omnibus. This is the stuff that I've got mapped around the JLA by Grant Morrison Omnibus, so this will lead you right up until the Joe Kelly stuff that Joe Kelly did. But I actually have Aztec, the Ultimate Man, in here, so they may have to call it something else. I just have it as a placeholder called JLA by Mark Waid. Technically, it would be JLA Omnibus Volume 2, even though Aztec is the series that took place during Grant Morrison's JLA. But I also included things in here like Midsummer's Nightmare, which I love that story. And I think that's going to be included in an Elseworld Omnibus. And then, of course, JLA Year 1, which to me would be a great place to begin this, because it is it's Barry Kitson? Yeah, with Mark Waid working on that book. And, of course, Heaven's Ladder, a book nobody talks about enough. Some of this stuff, by the way, has been collected in an oversized format, like the Tower of Babel story, which is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, according to everybody that reads Justice League, greatest Justice League / Batman story. Number 8. Oh yes, give it to me, baby. Sinestro Omnibus. This is set during the New 52. It is written, well, it started by Cullen Bunn, and you've got artwork in there from people like Del Eaglesham. But yeah, Cullen Bunn sticks around for a while, and this is just a series that I think needs to be collected. I almost went with, what was I going to call it? Orange and Yellow, so I could put Larfreeze in there. But then I thought, Sinestro can kind of stand on its own. Maybe I can put Larfreeze somewhere else. A lot of great artwork in here. There's also Martin Kokolo and Brad Walker, Drew Hennessy. And it's New 52, so we know that they've done the Red Lanterns, and now it's time that my boy Sinestro gets his due. And including the Future's End story in there. Number 7. Green Arrow, Connor Hawke Omnibus. This is the stuff after Mike Grell. We've got 2 beautiful Omnis, but now it's time for people to know who Connor Hawke is. I think in the past I got lazy and I'm like, oh, let's just put everything in there. Now I'm like, ooh, where would this realistically fit? Because this is the stuff by, of course, Chuck Dixon, Alan Grant, Doug Mensch, Kelly Puckett. There's some Jim Aparo in here and Kevin Dooley. But I don't know if Connor Hawke is a big enough name to carry 3 Omnis. So I'm trying to separate it by realistically, well, maybe 2 Omnis. Really big Omnis. We know they're not afraid of going big with these Omnis. And it's not like one of the number 1 sellers. So that's why I went with stopping it at issue 135. So it ends with that crossover with Robin and Detective Comics, and of course Nightwing. What is that called? The Brotherhood of the Fist. The Brotherhood of the Fist storyline. Number 6, coming back, baby, and that is Outsiders by Judd Winick Omnibus. This is volume 1, by the way. So this is collecting the issues of Outsiders right before it became Batman and the Outsiders, and then eventually it was like Dan Didio that wrote the book. Judd Winick, I think, did an amazing job introducing these characters, and it's the characters at first of like Arsenal in here, Metamorpho and Jade and Thunder, Grace and Indigo, and it's a character that shows up that had something to do with the death of a Titan. So it's like, how do you react to that? What do you do with that? And is it truly Metamorpho? Well, find out for yourself. I love the fact that this and Jeff Johns' Teen Titans were working so close together that sometimes, like Starfire, for example, Starfire ends up leaving the Teen Titans and coming over to this book. And then some of these characters will show up in the Teen Titans book. Oh, I love this era. And for some reason, not collected in omnibus format yet. So we will see if they do it maybe in 2027, 2026. Whenever. I'm willing to wait. Swamp Thing by Brian K. Vaughan. This is the stuff that happens after the Mark Miller stories. So that's been collected in omnibus format, and I want them to continue this in omnibus format. Is it big? No. There's not that many issues in here. But I think, based on some of the things that we've seen recently, like Rom V, run being collected in an omnibus format. I think only has like 520 pages. And I get it, you know, it's up to you whether you buy these small books or not. Some people like them. Some people prefer smaller, thinner books. Others are like, nope, give me the thickies, man, 1,000 pages or more. That's the way an omnibus should be. But omnibus really means just all the story in one. So if this is all of Brian K. Vaughan, that's it. But this, it goes in a different way. Like, it goes a different route than you think it's going to go. So it's a lot about Tefe, Swamp Thing's daughter. And I didn't think it would go that route, but it did. And still, I think it's been collected in trade paperback, but I think they've been doing a great job collecting Swamp Thing in omnibus format. I would love to see it in an Omni. Speaking of great way of collecting the stories in Omni format, Hellblazer by Ellis and Azzarello. Ellis is just not big enough to put into one Omni. This is the stuff that happens after the newly mentioned Paul Jenkins book. So it will continue the stories. There's even a little bit of Jason Aaron because no issue left behind. Not on my watch. It's just continuing the stories of John Constantine. Constantine, I know. It's Constantine all my life, sorry. But I freaking love this stuff. And the way they've been collecting it seems to be creator-centric instead of volume numbers. And it seems like the new collected editions team is keeping that in mind. So they're going back and collecting some issues that were written by these creators and then going back to the issues after the creator-centric omnibus. Like, for example, the Garth Ennis one, the one that started it all. They're mapping around that. I love that. I love that they're doing that. So, yes, Hellblazer by Ellis and Azzarello. Haunted Tank, Omnibus Volume 1. This one moved up so much. I have faith that DC is gonna do these stories one day. Is it going to need some touch-ups and rebuilding? I hope that the DC Finest gives us an idea of what these stories are going to look like after some of the artwork is restored. And I know it's pricey, but there's a big hole that is missing in omnibus format for material, and it is this older stuff. We have superhero stuff. We have superhero stuff from the Golden Age, the Silver Age, and now coming up Bronze Age. But it's like we're missing this era of war comics and science comics, which are now wonderfully being collected in DC Finest and will be soon. But I want it in omnibus format. This is a very popular run at DC with some phenomenal artists and creators. Number 2, Wonder Woman by William Messner-Loebs. Wundy has been shown a lot of love recently in omnibus format. We had a reprint of the Phil Jimenez omnibus. We're getting a John Byrne omnibus. We got the Greg Rucka omnibus. But this is one of my favorite era of Wonder Woman. It's been my most wanted before. It's kind of been in the top 5 for years. It's got artwork in here from Mike Deodato Jr. before we even knew he had a studio. So you also have artwork in here from people like Ed Benes. I think Joe Bennett doing some of the stuff in here. So I did include the Artemis miniseries in there because, hey, it's Artemis and she plays a huge role in the life of Diana, especially when you get to those anniversary issues. And this leads into the John Byrne omnibus, which, hey, that's coming as well. So, number 1. I think it's the first time it's made it on the list. Maybe. But I don't know. There's a fondness to it, and it's because we went to conventions. Fables Omnibus Volume 1. Bill Willingham and Mark Buckingham's masterpiece. We were teased that there was going to be an absolute edition, and oh my gosh, that would take way too many volumes. Give us an omnibus. Those compendiums are beautiful, and it introduced a lot of people to these stories, but I really do think Mark Buckingham's artwork, especially the framing that he does around each page, belongs in an oversized format, and I think an omnibus format would be the way to go. And, you know, I don't know, like, legally how they can do it. I mean, it still belongs to DC, no matter, you know, Bill Willingham and the whole public domain thing. So I think they could do it. I mean, we had a box set with a compendium, so we will see. And, oh, if you haven't read Fables, you are in for a magical treat. Oh my gosh, it's so good. When and if these books ever get made, don't forget to check out our sponsor to get them. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. That was my top 20 most wanted DC Omnis. Again, I'll be doing a top 10 Batman, top 10 Superman most wanted Omnis. Those will be separate videos. Let me know what yours would be, what you thought about my mapping on some of this. Is it too big? Is it not big enough? And then, of course, what your list would look like. What are your top? What did you vote for? I love doing the poll, but I also like talking about the books I enjoy and what I voted for. But that's it, everybody. And I also do a different mapping than my buddies do. So I love that there's a difference of opinion when now it comes to mapping and the way things should be collected. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.